All right, as I posted on the channel earlier, if someone commented, I would do a video on the Equinox, doing the heads. Nobody's commented yet, but Harley has decided we should do it. So Harley wins the comment. 3.4 liter 3400 V6. I went ahead and got a thermostat, full gasket set, and a water pump. Probably going overboard with that, but we're going to have a new water pump, we're going to have a new thermostat, 2 new head gaskets, and all new gaskets, and we'll be ready to go. So I'm going to get started, because the flies leave me alone, and put on time lapse, and you'll watch me tear it down. So I was getting ready to take the battery out of this thing, and you know how we always joke around about the 10mm socket? Well, someone actually left this one here for me. Look at it down there. Now this little guy right down here, somebody's left it in there. So awful nice of them. All I need is a 1/4 inch extension to get the battery out, and give them back their 10mm socket. All right, I took it off time lapse to go do some other things, got busy like always, and did not turn the camera back on. It was honestly kind of boring because it was just taking things apart that are pretty well self-explanatory. Now we're down to this portion, and I will say this: that bolt right there and this bolt right there, you can get anything besides a ratchet on it, ratchet wrench or a regular wrench, and it's about a 1/4 turn at a time. It sucks, but it's out. So now we got to always remember, right down here in this little galley, that is usually a bunch of dirt. I recommend either vacuum or blowing that out. And then this stuff up here, right in this area, you know, that stuff will stay inside the intake when you pull it out, and then you can turn it upside down. So I got one more hose to unhook right here, and then zip the bolts out on this top part to pull the lower intake plenium. Then we're down to pulling the valve covers, rocker arms, push rods. Looks like back here, I'm going to pick it up on the lift to disconnect the 2 bolts on the exhaust out. I'll probably take this crossover tube out here, right here, and I will leave the exhaust manifolds on the head. Let's see. All right, we got the intake loose, but I noticed something here. The way this is designed, you have to pull the valve cover off first before you can pull the intake manifold. So we're going to zip the valve covers off, and then we'll turn the camera back on so we can pull the intake. All right. right, we got the intake off, and man, this thing does have a lot of gaskets. We put it back together. We'll be very careful not to get any leaks, because the way that engine's put together, there's a ton of gaskets, and they're kind of everywhere, kind of the way they're done, and there's a lot of steep angles. So we're gonna keep moving forward here, and I think the next step is to yank the rockers off, push rods, and then lift it up to get the exhaust off of it. Get this crossover tube off, and once that's done, we'll be moving forward pretty quick. Alright, we got the rockers off of it and push rods out. Make note when you pull this apart to keep the push rods with the rocker arm, because the push rods are different length. So make sure they are separated out to the rocker arm that it goes to, and this is the way the engine sits, so I know exactly how this goes. And then on these bolts, I was lucky enough to get the exhaust manifold bolts loose, these three. These up here will not come loose, and I'm not about to break them off, so I'm going to take the two bolts out of the back, right back here, and then take this head off first, and then I can snake that out of there, and then that one will come off by itself, and we won't break any bolts, we hope. Okay, YouTube, we were able to just bust loose that side, and we wiggled it out of here. We got it out. You do have to pull the dipstick, because the bolt was stripped. So we did find the problem. We're gonna put we're gonna pull both heads, but right here, I don't know if you can see it, but that is not a perfect circle anymore. And down here, that is a coolant port that is just almost clogged, and that is egg shaped. And then right here is supposed to be a coolant port, and it's supposed to look like this. Instead, it's completely clogged. So I'm going to guess that that exact side over here is the same way. So hang on a few minutes, and we're going to pull this head, and we'll see what it looks like.
Here she comes. Yep, this is...
Same way?
This head is destroyed. This head gasket, same way, egged.
Alright, let's take a look.
That lifted it.
Somebody didn't drain the block, which is a no-no. Right down here, there's a little plug where you'd normally drain the block. I did the front, I didn't do the back. I figured it would cross flow. You can see it does not. So we'll vacuum that out. And that's completely plugged. And you can see again, this is egg shaped. It's supposed to be a perfect circle like this one. That one. That front one's egg shaped. All right. Well, it's been a pretty good day. We got the heads, of course, off. You've seen that. We got them all cleaned up. We got all the coolant ports and everything cleaned out. The head cleaned off. Everything smoothed out. Everything ready to go back together. We put the new head gaskets on, and everything fit back up as it should. Pipes and everything. So tomorrow morning I will torque the heads down and start the reassembly process, and we'll be ready to go back on the road for her. All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're back down here at the shop, and we got the heads torque this morning. Looks like 44 foot-pounds and then a 95-degree turn. We got that done on the front and the back, and we got this hose replaced that we had to cut in two because it was glued. I don't know from the blown head gasket or what, but the exhaust gases, it melted the hose to it, and we had to scrape it and sand it and quite an adventure for just one little hose. We got that done. We got to tighten our exhaust manifold here in the back and tighten our bolts here on the crossover pipe, and then clean out the holes here so we can get our lower plenum intake gasket back on, and lots of silicone between these little joints right here. That is a leak point for sure, so it comes with silicone. So we'll put our gasket down and then put silicone here, all 4 points, and we're going to continue to put this thing back together. Okay, we got our rockers back on, got them torqued down, and you can see how I did the bottom here. That first thing I did was put silicone here in the corner, both sides. Then I put these gaskets on. Then you put the rockers on. So you have to have the gaskets down before you put the push rods and rockers on it. Then I put these on and put a dot of silicone on each side. And I put just a little bit across the top. Doesn't need it, just a little bit to help it out. So we should be good to go. I'm going to put the lower intake on now and moving right along. Alright, we got the intake all cleaned up here. I did change the thermostat. You are money ahead if you change the thermostat now, I guarantee it, especially if you had head gasket problem. Another reason, it's a crossover pipe runs right here, so it's not very difficult, but it is more difficult to change it in the car. So I recommend doing it where you have the intake out, which we just did. Also, clean this pipe up really good. It's the place for leaks. Clean it off with a wire brush and make sure it's nice and clean, because it will cause you an issue. All right, we got the lower intake on. Everything fit up pretty good. We got the back valve cover on. Got fuel line connected. That's what I was talking about, guys. That crossover pipe right there is really tight to that thermostat. It can be done, you know, moderate level, hard to easy, I guess you'd say. It's just much easier to replace that thermostat when the intake is out if you're actually doing the head gasket. So we're gonna clean this front one up. We're gonna put the new grommets and everything in, and put this valve cover on. Then we're down to putting the upper intake, coil packs, a few more hoses. Got to replace water pump yet, but we're moving right along. And I do recommend putting silicone right here in this little V groove on both sides. Right there. Right here. Because it will leak. Well, YouTube, we made a mistake. It's not a big mistake, but I was tightening my bolts up and putting my hose back on. I seen this injector. When I seen the injector, it has no wire. That's because the wiring's still up there. So, not a big deal. Take this hose back loose, this back off, upper intake back off, put the wiring harness on, then put the upper intake on. Don't make that mistake. Now we can put the upper intake on because our wiring is all plugged in. Don't be that guy. All right, we're getting really close to turning a corner here. We got everything on the engine bay put back together. Getting ready to fill it with coolant. So I want to turn the camera on. So this right here is your bleeder. You'll need to take that out when you fill it with coolant. If not, it will airlock at the water pump, and it will overheat when you go to start one back up, especially doing a head job to where you're taking everything apart. You drained it completely out. There's no coolant in the block. So make sure you take that bleeder screw out before you fill it up with coolant. Then we got to raise it up. We got to hook the O2 sensor wire back up because it's a little easier done down there. We're going to drain the oil, change it, put a new oil filter on it, and we're ready to go. Okay, once you start getting coolant coming out of this consistently, all the air comes out. I usually take it completely out and let it run out of the top and let the bubbles come out. It goes a little faster. So you definitely want to see good straight coolant come out of here. Then you can fill the rest of that all the way up. Okay, we're 100% back together here. Everything's ready. We're going to start it up. Let anything that's on top of the engine get down to the filter. We're going to change it. So I'm going to clip you up on top of the hood here so we can fire this thing up and see what it sounds like and see what it do. Hopefully no weird noises. Let the fuel pump cycle. Well, it's running. Sounds better than when it came in the door, that's for sure. A little smoke from the oil and coolant on the engine. Oh yeah, she's smoothing right out now. Alright, now she's purring like a kitten. We had number 1 and 3, or I'm sorry, 3 and 5 were switched on the spark plugs down behind here. The way the loom laid, I left everything together. I was wrong. 90% of the time I'm right. This time I was wrong. So we switched the spark plug wires around. We're running smooth. We're going to change the oil, clear the codes. She's on her way. Well, the Equinox is ready to go back to the customer, and man, she is smooth. No check engine lights at all, as it should be, and she's running normal temperature. It did take some new spark plugs because the ones that was in it, they were pretty rough. Of course, you know, it did eat some coolant, but pretty happy. I think the customer's going to be extremely happy, because she broke down right there, and we just told her back on in, and we got her taken care of. So thanks for watching. Thanks for all the likes and subscribes and support. We really enjoy it, and we're going to continue to do this, and we've got some exciting videos to come. This one's kind of one we just threw in the mix because everything happens for a reason, and she ended up breaking down right out there. Thank you guys.